All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling adaptive leadership.
Oh, this is a good one.
You're looking to get a grip on what it is, why it matters, like really matters now,
Now more than ever.
and how to actually,
Sure.
do it.
Put it into practice. Yeah.
Our guide for this deep dive is Yusuf Bashir's book, Mastering Adaptive Leadership.
Great book.
And right away, it hits you with this question, and it's a good one. Is every problem a nail? Like we reach for the same tools, same solutions.
Right. But what if the problem? What if it's not a nail?
What if it's, I don't know, a leaky faucet? What do you do then?
Exactly. Traditional leadership, it gives us that hammer, for those male problems, the predictable ones.
The ones with a clear solution.
But Bashir's point is the world's less about hammering these days and more about, well, it's like navigating a constantly changing landscape.
So less hammer, more dot what? Like a compass, a map.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
But also the ability to read the terrain, adjust your course, and to deal with the unexpected.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does Bashir actually define adaptive leadership? Like, what is it?
Well, he does a great job contrasting it with those traditional models we were talking about. And there's this quote, it really stuck with me. Leadership is not about command. It's about adapting to the unexpected with courage and clarity.
I like that.
It's not just about handling crises when they pop up. It's a different way of thinking about leadership itself.
Okay, so it's a mindset shift.
Yeah, exactly.
But hold on, haven't people always had to adapt? Why is this such a big deal now?
You're right, change isn't new.
Mhm.
But the book lays out these sources of chaos we're facing now, and I think they'll sound familiar.
Lay it on me.
Well, you've got technology, especially AI, moving so fast, disrupting industries.
Right, AI is everywhere,
Then you've got global economics, the supply chains, recessions, all that.
making the future a lot less predictable.
Exactly. And then, let's not forget, you've got the socio-political stuff happening around the world, adding to the uncertainty.
Yeah, it's a
It is. And it's like you need more than just a hammer for all that,
you need a whole toolbox.
A toolbox, yeah. And the right mindset.
Okay, so less hammer, more adaptable tools. But I got to be honest, I'm a planner. Like, I like to know what's coming.
I hear you.
This whole embracing uncertainty thing, it makes me a little, I don't know, nervous.
That's totally understandable. Even the book says getting comfortable with ambiguity, it's a process, not just a switch you flip.
It's a journey.
Right. Bashir has this analogy. He compares traditional leadership to sailing in calm waters
Smooth sailing.
with a clear map. But adaptive leadership, he says, it's more like, navigating a storm.
Oh, I see.
You need different skills, you have to be willing to adjust your course, and you've got to have that resilience to weather the rough parts.
So it's less about having all the answers up front and more about, what, being okay with not knowing everything?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
that willingness to experiment, learn as you go, and adjust based on what you discover.
That actually makes me feel a bit better. Take some of the pressure off.
It should. And one way the book suggests we get better at this, it's by promoting continuous learning.
Okay, continuous learning. Like, always be learning.
Always be learning, yes. But not just for our teams, for ourselves as leaders, too.
So we have to model it.
We have to walk the walk.
Walk the walk, yeah. Makes sense.
Because think about it, if you're stuck in your old ways, how can you expect your team to be open to new ideas?
That's a good point.
So here's a question for you and for our listener. What's one thing you could start learning about today that would make you more adaptable in your own work?
Ooh, that's a good one. It could be anything, really. New tech, different leadership styles, you name it. And I think this connects to another big takeaway from the book. Building resilience.
That's huge.
It's not just about being tough, right?
No, it's more than that.
It's about having a process for reflecting on tough situations, learning from them.
That's where the book's practical exercises come in. Like there's one called the Resilience Reflection Exercise.
I like the sound of that.
It helps you figure out your strengths, but also, where you could grow when it comes to bouncing back from challenges.
Because we all face challenges, right? So it's about how we bounce back.
Exactly. And Bashir stresses this isn't just about individual resilience either.
Okay, so where else does it apply?
It's about building that resilience within teams, too.
So a resilient team.
Resilient team, yeah. A culture where people can support each other through the rough patches.
Makes sense. You can't weather a storm alone, right? You need a crew.
You need a crew. You need that support.
But how do you get everyone pulling in the same direction when things are, chaotic?
Well, that's where visionary thinking comes in. Bashir really highlights how important it is to have a compelling vision, especially when things feel uncertain.
I can see that. A vision can give people something to hold on to,
Feels like to aim for.
especially when everything else feels shaky.
Uh,
But how do you even craft a vision when, the future is so unpredictable?
that's what's interesting. The book breaks this down, something that feels so big and intangible, into actionable steps.
Okay, break it down for me.
It starts with knowing your core values, like what really matters to you, to your organization.
The guiding principles.
Right. Then it's about envisioning the future you want, almost like painting a picture with words.
Nice that.
And finally, you distill it all into this concise vision statement that, well, it guides your actions and it inspires others.
So from big picture to clear statement.
Exactly. So it's not just a vague idea. It's something you can actually work towards.
I like that.
And once you've got that vision, then you need a framework for making decisions in those turbulent times, right?
Because decisions, those don't stop just because things are tough.
They don't. And making decisions when you're not sure what's coming next, that can feel
It can feel like walking a tightrope.
walking a tightrope. Yeah. But the book, it gives us some tools for that, too.
Oh, good. I need some tools.
There's the decision matrix where you weigh different options and their potential outcomes.
Okay, so you can kind of map it out.
You map it out. Then there's scenario planning. You create different what-if scenarios so you're more prepared.
So being proactive, not just reactive.
Proactive, yeah.
Wow.
Thinking ahead. And data is important, analysis.
Always got to have the data.
Of course. But the book also recognizes that sometimes you got to trust your gut.
Intuition.
Intuition, yeah. Especially when things are changing so fast.
So it's about balancing the data with that gut feeling.
It's more like recognizing that intuition, based on your experience, can be a really valuable tool.
Because sometimes you don't have time to analyze every single data point.
Sometimes you don't. And Bashir gives real-world examples of this. Leaders who blended data with intuition successfully.
Like who?
Well, think about Netflix, their decision to switch to streaming.
That was a huge change.
It was. They saw the trends, they trusted their gut, and it paid off.
They adapted, or they would have been left behind.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about making the right call in that moment. It was about building a culture that allowed them to be flexible.
A culture of adaptability.
Yeah, being responsive to those changes.
Speaking of building a strong culture,
Mhm.
I got to be honest, I've always had a bit of conflicted relationship with emotional intelligence.
I hear that a lot.
Like, I get it's important, but I used to think it was all, a bit soft and fluffy.
It gets a bad rap sometimes.
But then I read this book.
What changed your mind?
Bashir makes a really strong case for why it's crucial, especially for this adaptive leadership stuff we're talking about.
It's essential.
So what's his take on it?
Well, he's very clear that it's not just about being nice or being super empathetic.
Okay, so it's more than that.
It's more. It's about understanding and managing emotions, both yours and the people around you.
Managing emotions, that's interesting.
And the book really gets into how emotional intelligence helps build strong relationships.
Which are crucial, especially when things get tough.
Crucial for collaboration, for trust.
So it's about being able to work together effectively, even when things are stressful, chaotic.
Exactly. And it's about self-awareness, too, and self-regulation. Like, can you keep your cool under pressure?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is for a lot of people, but it's also about being able to read the room, understand how your actions are impacting others.
That makes sense. I know I've definitely let my emotions get the better of me in tough situations, and it never ends well.
We've all been there. But that's what makes the book's discussion of emotional intelligence so relatable, It acknowledges that this is something a lot of leaders struggle with.
We're all human.
We are. But it also provides some really practical guidance for developing these skills.
So it's not just something you're born with. You can actually learn it.
You can learn it, you can practice it, you can get better at it. And the book even has these case studies where emotional intelligence was key to solving real leadership problems.
I like that, real-world examples.
Like there's one about this disengaged team. And the leader, by using his emotional intelligence, he figures out why they're demotivated.
So he gets to the root of the problem.
He gets to the root. And then he finds a solution that actually addresses their needs.
Okay, so emotional intelligence isn't just some fluffy concept. It's actually a tool you can use.
A powerful tool.
A powerful tool. So we've covered a lot. Embracing uncertainty, building resilience, having a vision, making decisions when things are tough, and now emotional intelligence. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it all fits together. And there's another piece here, fostering innovation.
Okay, innovation. That's always a hot topic.
It is. And Bashir, he argues that in today's world, you have to create a culture where people feel safe taking risks, experimenting.
Otherwise, you're just stuck doing the same old thing.
Exactly. If no one's rocking the boat, you're not going to find those new, better ways of doing things.
But how do you create that culture? It can't just be telling people to innovate, right?
No, it's more than that. And the book gets into some really specific techniques you can use.
Give me an example.
Well, there's brainstorming, but with specific rules to help people think outside the box.
Structured brainstorming. I like it.
Structured brainstorming, yeah. And then there's this technique called Scamper.
Scamper? What's that?
It's a great brainstorming tool. It stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse.
Whoa. That's a lot to remember.
It's an acronym. But the idea is you take a problem or an idea and you ask these questions like, can we substitute something? Can we combine elements? Can we adapt it for a different use? It helps you generate new possibilities.
So it's about looking at things from different angles.
Different angles, yeah, thinking differently. And Bashir, he doesn't just give us these techniques. He gives examples of companies that are doing this well.
So we can learn from the best.
Learn from the best.
Yeah.
Like Google, they had their famous 20% time policy where employees could work on their own projects.
Didn't that lead to Gmail?
It did. And then there's 3M, known for their super innovative culture, which gave us Post-it notes.
Post-it notes. It's a classic.
It is. And it shows that when you create that space for experimentation, for risk-taking, you can get these amazing breakthroughs.
It's inspiring to see how these companies have really embraced innovation.
They've made it part of their DNA.
But it's also important to acknowledge the ethical side of leadership, right?
Absolutely.
Like even when we're adapting, innovating, there are lines we can't cross.
That's crucial.
And Bashir, he addresses this directly in the book.
He does.
He says that ethical leadership, it's more important than ever.
Especially in this world where the rules are constantly changing.
So how do we navigate that?
Well, he's very clear. You need clear ethical guidelines within organizations.
Not just assuming everyone will know what's right.
Right. You need a code of conduct, something that outlines the values, the expectations.
Makes sense. A framework for ethical behavior.
Exactly. And it's not enough to just have it written down somewhere.
You have to live it.
You have to live it. The leaders have to model it.
Actions speak louder than words.
They do. And Bashir also talks about having ways for people to report concerns, not just whistleblowing when things go really wrong.
So a way to raise ethical issues before they become huge problems.
Exactly. Creating that culture where people feel safe speaking up.
A culture of accountability, transparency.
That's it. And to really drive this home, the book includes these case studies.
I love a good case study.
On the positive side, there's Johnson & Johnson, how they handled the Tylenol crisis way back when.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
They put consumer safety first, even though it cost them a lot of money in the short term.
It was a bold move.
It was. But it protected their brand, it reinforced the reputation for ethical leadership.
They did the right thing.
And it paid off in the long run. But then you've also got the cautionary tales, like Volkswagen with the emissions scandal.
Right, where they cut corners.
They did. And it shows what can happen when ethics take a back seat.
It's a good reminder that ethical leadership, it's not just about avoiding scandals. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard.
It's about building trust, creating a positive environment, and ultimately achieving sustainable success.
And that's what we all want, right? Sustainable success, both for ourselves and for our organizations.
Sustainable success, the right way.
The right way. So we've covered a lot of ground here, but what does all this mean for our listener, for the person who's trying to put these ideas into practice?
That's a great question. And that's what we'll explore in part 2 of this deep dive. All this ties back to future-proofing leadership, which Bashir dedicates a whole chapter to.
Future-proofing leadership. Okay, that sounds kind of intense.
It sounds a bit intimidating. I get it.
Yeah, like, can you really future-proof anything?
Well, it's less about, having a crystal ball and more about being prepared for different possibilities.
So not predicting the future exactly, but being ready for whatever comes next.
Exactly. It's about anticipating trends, having strategies that can adapt. He talks about this idea of environmental scanning.
Environmental scanning, like looking at everything around you.
Yeah, but in a more structured way. He mentions tools like pestle analysis, where you look at all these different factors, political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal. It helps you understand the bigger picture.
Okay, so it's about taking a step back and seeing the whole landscape, not just focusing on what's right in front of you.
Exactly. It's about getting that wider perspective. And once you have a sense of the landscape, then you can start thinking about how to prepare for what might be coming next.
So based on what we've talked about so far, I'm guessing it has a lot to do with being open to change and learning new things.
You're right on track. Bashir really emphasizes a growth mindset.
Growth mindset, yeah, we hear that a lot these days.
We do, but it's crucial here. It's about embracing continuous learning, fostering innovation, being willing to experiment.
And not being afraid to fail.
Exactly. Failure is just part of the learning process.
So future-proofing is all about staying curious, right? Staying ahead of the curve, evolving as a leader and as an organization.
It's about not getting stuck in the past, being willing to adapt. And he dives into some specific trends that he sees shaping the future of leadership.
Oh, like what?
Well, technology is a big one, of course, especially AI.
AI and leadership, that's an interesting combo.
It is. I used to think AI would replace leaders, but the book really changed my perspective on that.
How so?
Bashir argues that AI can actually enhance leadership.
Okay, so AI is a tool for leaders.
A powerful tool. It can help us analyze data, make better decisions, even personalize our approach.
I could see that, like using data to understand your team's strengths, tailor your leadership style to each individual.
Exactly. Plus, AI can take over some of the more routine tasks, which frees up leaders to focus on the bigger picture.
The strategic stuff, the creative stuff.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder. So it's not about AI taking over. It's about AI and human leaders working together.
A partnership, not a replacement.
Exactly. What other trends, you were asking?
Well, what else does he see on the horizon?
He talks about the changing workforce, with more remote and hybrid work.
That's definitely a trend we're seeing everywhere.
It is. And it means leaders need new ways to manage and motivate teams when people aren't always physically together.
It's not just about managing tasks anymore. It's about building relationships, trust, maintaining that team culture, even when you're not all in the same room.
Exactly. And then there's the whole focus on sustainability and corporate social responsibility.
Those are becoming more and more important, for sure.
Bashir's point is they're not just nice-to-haves anymore. They're essential for future-proof leadership.
So it's about leading with values, making decisions that benefit the whole, not just the bottom line.
It's about purpose-driven leadership. It's not just what you do, it's who you are as a leader.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another important topic, personal growth.
Ah, yes. Bashir dedicates a whole chapter to that, self-leadership.
Because you can't lead others if you're not leading yourself first. Right?
Exactly. And he gives us a framework for personal growth.
Break it down for me.
Self-awareness, self-regulation, goal setting, self-motivation. It's about taking ownership of your development as a leader.
So it's not just waiting for someone to give you an opportunity. It's about creating your own opportunities.
Creating your own path. And it's not just about professional growth either. The book talks about the importance of balance, work-life balance.
Because we're not just leaders, we're also, human beings.
We are. We have lives outside of work. And Bashir encourages leaders to prioritize well-being, build support networks.
Take care of ourselves.
Take care of ourselves so we can better take care of others. And he even gives some practical tips like journaling, personal development plans.
I like that it's not all just theory. There are actually things you can do.
It's actionable advice. It's about becoming the best version of yourself so you can lead from a place of strength and wholeness.
And that leads us to the idea of building a legacy.
Ah, legacy. That's a big one.
It is. It's something a lot of leaders aspire to, but it can feel kind of daunting.
I get it. But the book, it breaks it down into steps, like identifying and developing future leaders.
So it's about mentorship, succession planning, making sure there's someone ready to take the reins when it's time.
It's about preparing the next generation of leaders so your work continues even after you're gone.
Passing the torch.
Passing the torch, but also inspiring them to become even better than you were.
To build on your legacy, take it to the next level.
Exactly. And it's about never stopping learning yourself, getting feedback, reflecting on your experiences. It's a continuous process.
So it's a cycle. Learning, growing, leading, sharing, and then learning some more.
A beautiful cycle. And it all starts with that inner work, that commitment to personal growth and self-leadership.
Because the better we lead ourselves, the better we can lead others.
And that's where the book's resources really come in handy.
The appendices, yeah, those were packed with stuff.
Tools, templates, self-assessment exercises, resilience-building resources, technology tools, strategic planning templates. It's like a whole toolkit for adaptive leadership.
It's like he gives you everything you need to get started.
He does. Plus, there's a whole list of recommended readings, links to online communities, workshops. He doesn't just give us the theory, he gives us the resources to keep learning and growing.
So it's not just a book, it's like a whole support system.
A community of adaptive leaders. And I think that's what's so powerful about this book. It's not just about information, it's about inspiration. It's about empowering people to step up and lead.
And to make a difference in the world.
To make a difference, because at the end of the day, that's what leadership is all about.
So we've talked about a lot of big picture ideas, but let's bring it back down to earth for a minute.
Okay, back down to earth.
What are some things our listener can actually do today to start putting these ideas into practice?
It can be a lot, right? All these ideas.
It could feel kind of overwhelming, like where do I even start?
And that's where Bashir's advice is so helpful. He's like, don't try to do everything at once.
Okay, so baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah. Pick one area that speaks to you and focus on that.
So instead of trying to master every single concept, I can just choose one thing.
One thing and really dive deep.
That makes it less daunting.
It does. Maybe you want to get better at communication or building those strong relationships, or maybe just being more comfortable with not having all the answers right away.
Oh, that's a big one for me, the not knowing everything.
It's a big one for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've picked your focus, then it's about experimenting. Try some of the techniques from the book, see what works for you, for your team.
And it's okay to mess up along the way, right?
It's more than okay. It's expected. We're all human. We're going to make mistakes.
It's part of the process.
It is. And that's where that growth mindset comes in again, seeing those setbacks as opportunities.
So instead of getting discouraged, I can ask myself, what did I learn? How can I do better next time?
Exactly. It's about shifting from that fixed mindset where you think you either have it or you don't, to a growth mindset where you believe you can always improve.
Always learning, always growing.
That's the key. And that makes a huge difference in how you approach leadership, especially when things are changing so fast.
Being flexible, resilient, open to new possibilities.
That's it. Embracing the unknown instead of being scared of it. Seeing change as an opportunity, not a threat. And remembering that leadership, it's not a solo act.
We've talked a lot about collaboration, connection.
It's essential. Building relationships, working together, creating a culture where everyone feels like they can contribute.
It's like building a community.
A community of adaptive leaders, yeah. Supporting each other, learning from each other.
And that's what makes this book so powerful. It's not just a book, it's like a roadmap.
A framework, a toolkit, a community. It's for anyone who wants to become a better leader.
For anyone who wants to make a difference.
And it's a call to action. It's like Bashir saying, the world needs you. Step up and lead.
So to wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listener with one final thought.
The future might be uncertain, but it's also full of possibility.
And with the tools and the mindset of adaptive leadership, you have the power to shape that future.
To make it a better future. Thank you for joining us on this journey.
We hope you learned something, that you're feeling inspired.
And remember, the journey doesn't end here. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time.